Good afternoon. My name is Seafood Dave Charlesworth here from Kajukenbo Napoli in Naples, Italy. Excuse me if I sound a little under the weather here. Apparently, influenza has been training for the last couple of years while COVID was here, and gotten pretty badass over the last couple of years. So I'm still recovering from a little bout with influenza here. So excuse me if I sound a little hoarse or a little sniffly for you. But I just got done watching Angelo's podcast number 124. Why isn't Kajukenbo as popular as Gracie Jiu-Jitsu? If you have yet to watch it, please do. And support his channel as there's a lot of good information and material there. I jotted down some notes and some thoughts that I wanted to provide them in the form of a video on some of my thoughts that were spurred from watching his video, as well as some general observations and things that I think may be useful. But before I begin, I'll take the advice that Angelo also gave me and take a moment to ask you to visit my YouTube channel, subscribe, and hit the like button. I really would appreciate your support. Let me start by pushing a hot topic button. What is Kajukenbo? Sorry, Angelo, but I really do think that this may be one of the reasons at the forefront of your title question, why isn't Kajukenbo as popular as Gracie Jiu-Jitsu? If we cannot define what Kajukenbo is, then how do we present it to the non-martial arts world of potential students who are trying to select a school that suits their needs? So I'll jump off of that grenade and just talk a little bit. Kajukenbo does not have the name recognition that traditional styles have to the non-martial artist. Although Kajukenbo is made up of karate, judo, jiu-jitsu, kenpo, Chinese boxing or kung fu, and American boxing as the core of our system, the acronym is not a household name, as does not usually pop off the Yellow Pages ad or the internet post or flyer or the billboard advertisement. As a result, many simply advertise as being karate or kung fu or just kenpo, whether that be with an M or an N, as those names are much more recognizable with the idea that the student will understand once we get them in the door. Changing the name, while in most cases was probably done as an attempt to market the individual school and was not meant to harm, but in fact, at least in my opinion, has done a tremendous disservice to our roots and the promotion of our art. After all, if we don't call ourselves Kajukenbo, then how do we expect others to recognize our name? And how do we successfully grow that recognition? We also tend to use a lot of colorful buzzwords like X, Y, or Z self-defense systems, or adding combat martial arts as a method of marketing when the name Kajukenbo should stand on its own. What qualifies as a combat martial arts, by the way? Does it actually have to be used in combat? Just asking. We need to do the work. We need to show off Kajukenbo and get our name out there. After all, Kajukenbo has not been around for hundreds of years to have the name recognition that Jiu-Jitsu already has, independent of whose name is in front of it. Now, another characteristic of Kajukenbo that has hampered its growth is its grassroots local kind of mindset. We are not just on the island anymore. It is easy when your reputation is a local one, where word of mouth spreads fast in that kind of an environment. But there have not been a lot of large-scale Kajukenbo schools. How can I say this? We've been very localized and concentrated in various areas, and even today remain mainly an island and west coast method, which is kind of ironic, since your video, which included two of the Sifus who are in Japan, and my response is coming to everyone from Italy. Although all three of us started on the West Coast, you two in California, and me in Oregon. Additionally, a lot of Kajukenbo practitioners teach out of their garage or in their backyard, which makes us very hard to find. Only once you're able to establish yourself do you have a school that people may see when they drive by and possibly stop in to check us out. Even once established, it can be tough to keep the school thriving, and practitioners often find themselves returning to the garage or subletting space from another school. People don't necessarily list themselves in the Kajukenbo.org page and make their presence known for those who already know about us and who are trying to search us out. I think that the mindset needs to change, and unlike the honey badger, Kajukenbo practitioners should be damn proud to have their names on that Kajukenbo family tree, and should do everything they can not only to further their art, but also the proliferation of that art throughout the world. Kajukenbo is just too good not to share. After all, is it not amazing that you two are teaching Kajukenbo in Japan, of all places? Something, that was also said during the podcast is that Kajukenbo is not MMA. And this is quite possibly another fundamental reason that Kajukenbo has yet to gain the traction that, in my opinion, it deserves. There's something to be said about the effect that organized mixed martial arts has had on the world. The advent of the UFC has definitely promoted Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, as grappling is definitely a requirement, or at least being able to defend against it if you want to be competitive in the UFC. When I started Kajukenbo training in Kajukenbo, we were proud to be the first mixed martial art. Somehow, the UFC has convinced even some Kajukenbo black belts that Kajukenbo is not a mixed martial art. Somehow, that term has now become synonymous to the UFC and the like. Then there are others out there that see Kajukenbo as a pure street fighting style that has no sport applications. I found it interesting that the comments that were made in reference to Cijo not allowing the promotion of Kajukenbo in a sports setting. I've always found that in any competitive arena, Kajukenbo has always performed well. In fact, there are some that basically demand it. And I think that is the only way to pressure test your training, or at least the only safe way to do so. As you guys mentioned during the podcast, Kajukenbo is not strict and full of traditional rules and guidelines with regard to what we teach once we reach black belt, and we are allowed to make our mark and tweak what we were taught with the idea of consistently improving our style and keeping it relevant. There are those who continue to train in other systems and add that martial arts into what they teach. As mentioned, once you're in your black belt, that's your prerogative and not necessarily frowned upon. But please don't forget that which is your core. You're either making your Kajukenbo better or you're replacing it. If you change the name, are you not replacing it? As mentioned in your podcast, Kajukenbo is so effective because we draw from other styles. Originally, it was only a few that make up the acronym that is the name, and now, in some cases, have we lost track? In my opinion, we need to continue to push ourselves to find our way to market Kajukenbo and to let the whole world see what it is that we have to offer. I don't buy for a minute that anyone's embarrassed to be Kajukenbo. I know it sucks to have to explain what it is when people ask, but it's necessary if we want to grow our style or our system and thrive into the future. I know there used to be Kajukenbo expedition teams that performed at tournaments. I, in fact, would encourage competition for all your students, as if nothing else, people will remember who beat them. Show up en masse, take home all the trophies, and your school will receive phone calls looking to be part of the best. For those competing in MMA, there I go, coming to the UFC. I thank you for your sacrifice and the dedication and the amount of training required to compete at that level. Just know that your Kajukenbo brothers and sisters are behind you, and we are proud of your successes. Keep on training and bring home the win. I hope that I may have added some good points to the conversation, and I thank you, Angelo, for your efforts in your podcast. Always a good watch, and I always look forward to your content as it comes out. I hope that my video only adds value to what has already been said. I look forward to the years to come and the evolution and the propagation of Kajukenbo throughout the world. I hope to plant some good roots here in Italy, and I thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please take the time to visit my channel, like and subscribe. And if you have any comments, please leave them as well. I will answer them. I'd like to say thanks again, and mahalo.